Sounds like some of you may be familiar with this presentation. My goal here this morning or this afternoon is to just do a quick review and hit the high notes on why you want to think about Social Security differently when it comes to retirement income planning. So specifically, the topic I want to touch on today, Social Security optimization, is really you'll learn become the backbone of the practice, the incredible practice, frankly, that Mike and Russ have been able to build. And I'm excited that they're here to share with all of you the successes that they've had. But when we talk about Social Security, we use the term optimization because we're really looking at it holistically and trying to put on display quantitatively the impact it can have on an overall plan. So more often than not, people look very superficially at this as a tool and don't view it in the light it should be viewed, which is it's the most dynamic tool in the planning toolbox. You can go to the next slide, Glenn. So today, as we all know, the world that we work in is really changed. Sorry, I'm in an airport, folks. And ultimately, what we hear from the academic world is that the vast majority of Americans are not on pace to meet their savings targets. So this is just another example of the statistics that we come across every day that kind of highlight that story. My goal today is to share with you how in many instances, whether or not somebody saved enough money has far less to do with the work that they've done and far more to do with the way the advisors they work with go about building and implementing plans. When we look at when people historically take Social Security, the answer is always early. What we found interesting is when we ask people, when do you intend to take? They always say early. When we ask why, we get a number of different answers, but effectively what we hear is they're not convinced they're going to be here till 70. So they know if they wait, they're going to get more, but they're not convinced that it's going to be worth their while because they're afraid maybe they won't make it to 70 or they'll only last till 71 or 72. So really what they're saying, in my estimation, is when it comes to Social Security, they don't want to make the wrong bet. The wrong bet would be to wait to take benefits until 70 when they can get considerably more. And on the 364th day of their 69th year, fall off a 1,000-foot cliff and think to themselves, "Oh crap! I should have taken benefits at 62." Right? Ultimately, that's what they're trying to avoid. Now, the interesting thing is, and why I say people look at it as a bet, is we ask them when they intend to take and why. And then the next question we ask is, until what age would you like this retirement income plan we're building for you to last? Of course, we get a totally different answer then. They want it to last till they're 90 or 95 or 100. So it's kind of ironic that when we talk about when they're going to take Social Security, they're focused on not being here beyond 70. But when we speak to them about their plan, that they recognize needs to last till 90 or 95. So there's a dichotomy there in that thinking that we've got to help them rectify and ultimately help them put themselves on a better course to the secure retirement they're looking for. And Social Security, as you'll see, can be the catalyst for that. Go ahead, Glenn. You can keep going. Here what we have is just a quick look at what I call the lifespan of a PIA. So a PIA is primary insurance amount, which is someone's retirement income benefit at full retirement age. Most folks know if they take benefits early, there's a reduction. And if they take them as early as possible, if they have a full retirement age of 67, they take benefits as early as possible, 62, then the reduction is 30%. Conversely, if they opt not to take it 62, not take it 67 and wait all the way till 70, they're guaranteed to get at least 24% more. At 70, they would have gotten at 67. What people aren't familiar with is the difference between what you get at 62 and what you get at 70 under current Social Security formula. So if you click that slide, Glenn, it'll populate for the group what the impact really is. One more, Glenn. And you'll see the difference on the current formulas between 62 and 70 is 77%. So what I'm telling you is if you opt not to take benefits and you wait all the way to 70, you're guaranteed under current formulas to get at least 77% more. You cannot get less but it could be more. And this is important for everybody to understand because obviously, if your intent is to take benefits early, for many people, they're thinking, I'll take benefits early and I'll save that money. I'll build a secondary retirement account. And if I'm still here at 70, I'll have this hedging strategy where that money I've accumulated by taking early can match the 77% increase. And as I like to say, it sounds good in theory, but in practice, you're going to run into some significant challenges. Next slide. The first thing you're going to run into is what's known as the earnings test. So if you're collecting, you're under full retirement age and you have earned income, you're going to be subjected to the earnings test. For every $2 you're over that threshold, you have to forfeit $1 in benefits. What does that mean? If somebody's hedging strategy and plan is to take early, save all of that money, build a secondary retirement account, then tap into that secondary retirement account to match the 77% increase they would have gotten had they waited, it's going to be pretty difficult when you start looking at how these numbers work out. So as you can see here, if somebody had just over $71,000 of earned income at 62, and they had a $2,000 a month benefit, they'd be forfeiting all of that money between ages 62 and 66, and they may even forfeit some more in that fifth year when they attain full retirement age. But we can say at a minimum, in this instance, where you have an FRA of 67, they're going to forfeit $24,000 a year for 4 years. It's going to be pretty difficult to execute that hedging strategy. I think you would agree if you never get your hands on the money. Next slide, Glenn, please. So let's look at this a little more closely. Let's pretend we have a couple whose EIAs are 3,200 and 2,800. So 3,200 and 2,800 are their benefits at full retirement age. They're thinking about taking early. We're going to look at if they take early, what are they actually going to get after the reduction? And then conversely, if they delayed all the way to 70, what are they guaranteed to get? And the difference between these two figures is $3,240 a month. Why do I bring that up? Because we've got to be able to build a big enough secondary retirement account, even in the face of the earnings test, to spin off enough income to match this $3,240 a month increase when 70 finally comes. So if you look at the next slide, we're going to look at what does that 3,240 really represent in total capital or total income, pardon me, 38.8. So we need to generate from the money we took early from Social Security and saved 38.8 in additional income at 70 to match the minimum increase they would have gotten had they simply waited. So go to the next slide. We can talk a little bit about how we can back into the capital and performance requirement to achieve those kind of numbers. So if we use the 4% initial safe withdrawal rate, and we make some adjustments to it to account for fees, which none of the work ever did account for, and probability of success. The Bengen study, which gave us the 4%, attempted to achieve an 80% probability of success. No one ever picks 80% in our software. They all want 90, 95, 99. So we make an adjustment down to account for fees of 1% and the idea that we want to achieve a 95% or 99% probability of success. Now we know what can we safely take in year one from the capital we've accumulated, 2.62%. So how much capital will we need 8 years from now to actually deliver with the reasonable probability the 38.8 of additional income they'll need? We need almost $1.5 million. You have to earn in excess of 30% the compounding annual growth rate over that period of time on all the money that you saved, assuming you saved every penny and the earnings test didn't exist. The likelihood that you could deliver that kind of performance for your client, I think we can all agree, is highly unlikely. Nor would any compliance department ever sign off on you positioning the asset so aggressively should actually even have a chance to attain that if the market fully cooperated. So it's just, is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. Is it probable? No. So ultimately, through education, we help people understand that this is what you're up against. Now, on the next slide, we're going to talk real quickly about what happens between 62 and 70. So earlier I said you get at least 76%, cannot be less, but it could be more. Of course, the question that everybody wants to know the answer to is how could it be more? Here's how it can be more. Every year from the time you reach age 62, whether you're collecting benefits or not, if a cost of living adjustment is declared, your primary insurance amount, which is your retirement income benefit for retirement age, that number is increased on a compounded basis to account for a cost of living adjustment. Again, whether you're collecting or not. So what does that mean? The only way you would have a 77% increase is if not a single cost of living adjustment was declared over the 8-year period between attaining 62 and 70. What you're going to see on the next slide shows what the actual impact was over the past cycle. So we assume you attain the current age on January 1st, we're going to look at if we go back in time and you said to me in 2017, how much more am I going to get? I would have said 77% at least, can't be less, could be more. Now you come back January 1st, 2025. What was the actual increase? 133%. So think about that for a minute. You have to earn almost 30% to match a 76% increase. What are the odds you're going to deliver the kind of performance for a client required to match a 133% increase? And I'm not cherry picking these numbers. I update the last cycle every year. So we've seen these numbers as low as 100% and as high as 133. So this is real economic value that's totally dismissed when we use something like a break-even analysis. And the work that I do, and Mike and Russ and others, highlights the economic value that Social Security planning can bring to the overall retirement plan, and reduces in the end the amount of capital required to deliver somebody's income objectives, as you'll see here in a minute. So the next slide we'll walk through a quick case study. So as you can see, we have a married couple, 67 years old, PIAs of 3,200 and 2,800. We're going to look at how much capital would be required if they had a $108,000 income goal. They had a 99% desired probability of success. They wanted it to last 30 years, and they took benefits at 67, using that same kind of credible science of initial safe withdrawals. We'll back into how much capital they'll need, net of their Social Security income, to meet their objectives. And then separately, we look at what happens if all they do is wait. So change nothing else, but delay when they take benefits from 67 to 70. So to do so, we first have to establish what we call the income gap. So how much does the capital have to deliver? The 1.2 million in capital, we're assuming they've accumulated. How much income does it have to deliver? Beginning in the early scenario at 67 to provide the additional income they need. So they need 36,000, I believe is the number, from Social Security to meet their objectives. If they take early, and if they take later at 70, they need a little bit less. On the next slide, we're going to take a little closer look at this. Go ahead to the next one, Glenn. So ultimately, what we're responsible for normally is filling the gap with whatever capital they have available. So if we take benefits early, we need to deliver an additional 36,000 from the 1.2 million. If we delay, they need less because the cost of living adjustment, the delayed retirement credits that they earn between 67 and 70 are going to drive up Social Security, so it'll drive down the gap. But we will make an inflation adjustment to that gap number here in a moment. Next slide, Glenn, please. So this just shows the quick math using that same credible science. How much capital do we need to meet the plan objectives? An additional 36,000 over 30 years, a 99% probability of success. We need 1.5 million. They don't have 1.5 million, they have 1.2 million. So what we'll do is we'll explore the impact of the capital requirement in the software if they choose to take benefits at a different time. In this instance, I show what happens if they wait till 70, but I make an inflation adjustment to the gap because we're still retiring at 67. The question we're really exploring here is what impact would it take or would it have if we didn't take benefits till 70? Not if we waited till retire until 70, just waited to take benefits till 70. So once we apply the inflation adjustment, we need $783,000 to deliver that additional income from 70 and beyond. But on the next slide, we'll talk about one of the fundamental differences between what we call the earlies and the laters. So what happens here is if I opt to take benefits later, but I'm still retiring at 67, I've got to carry myself financially for those first 3 years. So we calculate here very simply, we do this in the software, the amount of money, what we call bridge capital, we'll need to carry us from when we retire, when we take benefits. So if you click on that, Glenn, it'll actually populate bridge capital, and it'll add that to the money we'll need beginning at 70 once Social Security benefits kick in to close the remaining gap. And now we go from needing 1.5 million to do the job, and frankly being $300,000 underfunded, to needing just over 1.1 million. And now we're instead of being underfunded, was slightly overfunded. So if you think about what just happened, if you go to the next slide, we took the same income goal, the same time horizon, the same portfolio construct, the same inflation assumptions, the same desired probability of success. Everything is exactly the same except when and how they take benefits. The amount of capital required to deliver that plan drops by 26%. So the real question is, okay, I see clearly that weighting can be beneficial, but how do we get to 50% less, the 50% less DMI is talked about when marketing this call? So the next slide talks a little bit about, how we got to where we are, the amount of cap and the difference between taking benefits at FRA versus taking benefits at 70, and summarizes the impact of the capital. But the way you get to a 50% reduction is you look for a second opportunity to get some leverage. So in the first step here, we're leveraging Social Security a little bit differently. Now, the next step, instead of only considering an asset allocation approach, which is what we're doing when we use asset allocation and interest rate withdrawal rates to back on the number, but we look at using a lifetime income benefit. So if you go to the next slide, Glenn, one more after this. Sorry, I went one more, buddy. I got ahead of myself. Go to one more slide. We'll wrap this up again later. So right here, we go to DMI and we say to Eric, how much do we need to invest today? In this example, the Ascent Pro 10, to deliver the same income on a contractually guaranteed basis for the duration of 2 years? And the answer is considerably less, 280 some odd thousand, versus what we were saying if we use an asset allocation approach of almost 800,000. The bridge capital remains the same because we're still going to retire at 67 and not take benefits till 70. But by bringing that second leverage point into the equation, we're truly not only optimizing Social Security, we're optimizing the assets. We drive the capital requirement down dramatically, and we deliver the same income plan, meet all their objectives with 618,000 versus the original 1.5 and the alternative 1.1. So clearly, we're able to deliver a significantly better plan for a significantly lower amount of capital. It took them from underfunded to effectively fully funded to now overfunded. And we did so simply by taking benefits at a different time and leveraging all the tools in the toolbox. Next slide just talks a little bit about some of the added benefits. Not a feature, but some of the added benefits. So this is just a summary of the difference. So if we look at the earlies, they were 300,000 underfunded, and now the laters are almost 600,000 overfunded. That's an $800, almost $900,000 swing in the client's favor. Again, all they did is take benefits at a different time and take advantage of a second leverage point with the lifetime income benefit. So on the next slide, Glenn, it's going to just kind of compare and contrast the earlies plan, which is really the traditional approach, with the optimized plan. If you click that, it will show what the impact is to what I call the 4 areas of concern. Oh, you went one too far, but that's all right. So it can be dramatic, but the other part, there you go. I'm just not seeing on my screen. Obviously, you can see percentage guaranteed, percentage inflation adjusted, percentage taxable, and last but not least, what remains in guaranteed source of income for the survivor. We deliver all that for effectively 50% or more than 50% less capital. One of the added benefits on the next slide is not only are we delivering the plan for 50% less capital and taking them from underfunded to overfunded, but we're also delivering that plan on a highly tax efficient basis. So I'm not going to get into the details on taxation. We do get into that in our class. What you'll see here is by the time they're 70, the inflation adjusted income is swelled to almost or just over 118. And the amount of taxable income for the earlies is 75. For the laters, it's 48. That's a considerable difference. But $27,000 a year less taxable income. You take that and you project it out, for the remaining 27 years, and you're talking about several $100,000 less taxable income on top of delivering a plan that's fully funded, not underfunded by $300,000. So keep going, Glenn. You have 24,000 more guaranteed income, 24% more guaranteed income thanks to DRCs, that much less taxable income. And the next slide just talks about the That's before standard deduction. So once you apply the standard deduction, you're talking about delivering almost $120,000 of income, and you have roughly net about $13,000 a year of actual taxes. So you're going to owe about $120 in federal income tax on just shy of $10,000 a month in gross income. So Glenn, I'm gonna say we've kind of hit all the high points here. I can kick it back to you guys, and you guys can talk with Mike and Russ about the tactical piece of it. But hopefully that gives everybody a refresher on why you don't want to ignore Social Security and the impact it can have on a plan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Andy. Yeah, Mike and Russ, Eric, what would you guys like to speak to? Maybe Mike and Russ. I think everybody would be interested in kind of understanding how you take this knowledge from Professor Robertson and apply it in the street and become a hero for your clients. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. First, Maureen, Glenn, Eric, thank you for allowing us to be part of this today.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
We really appreciate it. And we do talk to Andy quite often. Andy, I want to thank you for giving us another little primer, because we're actually doing a workshop here in Williamsville, New York tonight, Russ and I. So you just gave us a little bit more of a, confidence booster, right? So I think this is how I'd break this down. And I think, what Andy taught me, and now it's, I think, into a 10th year that I'm doing these workshops. Russ joined on with me 3 years ago, roughly. And I'd use this difference. You could be interested in this and everything you're hearing today, or you could be committed to it. And I think I made a commitment to it. And that's a far different story than just saying, wow, this was really interesting. We see how some of the math worked. I'd like to maybe do this once in a while. Like, I decided, no, this is way too important for people that are nearing or reaching retirement. I have to have a commitment to it. So the certification in Social Security claiming strategies was the starting point. And then creating activity was the next thing. And so, having a commitment to it gained my competence in it, which then gave me the confidence to present to people in a setting and answer questions. And then it really brought credibility to close business. So lots of C words, I guess, but that's the bottom line in our business. We want to close the business. We certainly want to be educators to people. We want to give them the right advice, but you want to close the business too. And so you don't close the business without a commitment, without being competent, without having credibility. And so the only other thing I'd say, and I want Russ to interject then, is we don't do anything different than what Andy has laid out for us. And I literally have not changed a thing in 10 years. I've only made these subtle adjustments that Andy has recommended. And to Andy's credit, he often asks us for some advice, asks us how we're doing in the workshops, asks us how we're doing with our clients, and are we closing business and so forth. So I don't know. I think it's just the right approach. And so once you make that commitment to it, it truly becomes fairly easy. I hate to say it that way, but it really does, because we don't vary what we're doing. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel to any degree.
Yeah. Hey, Mike or Russ, Russ, maybe you can answer this. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but for those people that are out there that are thinking CSSCS certification sounds complicated, this whole deal sounds a little strange. It's just what would you say to them? Is it difficult, or is it actually, in fact, maybe a little bit easier?
You need to take the time to study, of course, the material, and take your time in really understanding the concepts.
Russ, your mic is a little bit low. If you don't, maybe there's a way to turn it.
I'll get it.
Sorry.
Yep, no problem.
Maybe I can speak into yours.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go.
How's that? Is that better?
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks, Russ.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're welcome. With any certification, there's you have to learn the material, of course, and feel confident enough to pass the exam. Mike, number 4, Mike. Sorry about that. But I think even more important is, and to Mike's point of the competence and embracing this, like you have to have repetition to put it into practice because there are so many filing strategies, rules, and everything in order for you to feel confident in delivering the information to clients. And that's ultimately why you're seeking that. So it's attainable. It is work, of course, but everything you do after that, to me, and staying ingrained in the material is really, really where I think the importance of it is. Does that answer your question well?
Yeah, no, that does.
Okay.
And then continue with your other thoughts, though. Appreciate it.
Can you hear me on this mic now or no? Is that mic-
It's cold. It's a little low.
So,
Yeah,
we'll just share.
All right.
there you go.
So,
The other thing I was going to say is that, this whole process, really what it does is it identifies you as a specialist in an area that really calls for specialization. As everyone on this call knows, you have the accumulation stage, right? And we're adding assets to the market and we're helping people build wealth. But what we've found is most advisors, or the advice that's out there, is really lacking when it comes to how are you delivering income to clients and how can you really show them the best way to use or to retire, and to really, do they have enough, and how this will actually work. It's not just a hope and a prayer. You're actually giving them specialized knowledge and specialized advice and how to use their assets in the most efficient way for them. And can they actually achieve what they want to achieve in a confident way? So when they're 2 years into retirement and we're in a bear market, that they're not panicked. They know that they can continue on living how they want to live and not pause what they're doing. And the other thing I would say is, you might be able to give clients options that they didn't even know existed. And so the software, what it allows for is you to compare what they think they want to do, or maybe if they're working with someone else and they're seeing you for a consultation, compare what they think they're doing, and then give them an alternative strategy, maybe just using asset optimization or asset allocation and the best Social Security claiming strategy, and then optimizing. And because they might have enough wealth to deliver the income in a highly probable way. For example, I'm seeing a prospect here in a little bit. They have about 3.5 million liquid. They have plenty of capital. They're going to have a 99% probability of achieving their goal. But I'm essentially making them more liquid. They have more of their own money up front. They know they can just spend and still deliver the income they have. And I can show them how to do that through asset allocation. But by leveraging an annuity product in this particular example for them, even though they may not think they need it, can make a profound impact and actually make them more liquid. And that's one of the big, contentions I hear in the annuity space is, oh, it's illiquid. Well, we have to use it the right way, in delivering the income plan. But you can stack that all with each other in a very nice way and let them choose. They can walk into the decision of which approach they want to go with. So I think it's just really powerful. But the more competence you develop and the more comfortable you are in doing that and with the knowledge, the more impactful you can be.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of folks out there that think that this is just an annuity play, but you guys don't only sell annuities. You guys are selling a mix of AUM, annuities, and other products as well, correct?
That's right. I'd say, 90% of our business is AUM. Maybe 80 to 90, but yeah, it for sure shows people, gets them over the hump on, because everyone has that. They hear the word annuity and they're like, oh, I heard those are bad. Well, why do you think they're bad, right? And it's just a tool, and it's how you use a tool. A hammer isn't inherently bad, but it can be good if I'm hitting a nail into the wall, but it can be horrible if I smash the computer screen in front of me, right? It's not the tool that's bad, it's the manner in which you use it. And so,
Right.
Yeah,
Hey, Eric, well, go ahead, Mike, but Eric, if you've got a question too.
Yeah, I'm winding up with one.
No, I would just also add that the use of annuities, I've often referred to it as kind of being surgical, being very, very precise. And I mean to the point of not one extra dollar goes into an annuity if it doesn't have to. But you don't then have to guess. All you have to do is apply what you've learned about people, what their retirement income goal is, what all the sources of income will be, what their wealth is, and you can identify then precisely, as Andy's example showed, precisely what the annuity needs to be. And I think that alone shows people you're not just randomly assigning a certain dollar value to an annuity. And that could be perceived as a little more self-serving as an agent, right? Or as an advisor. You're doing precisely what the software said we should do so that you have that much more excess capital for discretionary use or even for legacy. And I know we often will say, people joke and say, legacy, we just have to get through our retirement. We don't expect the kids to get anything. And we say, well, we think we can resuscitate that notion. We think we can bring that back to life and maybe even create legacy for your kids or your grandkids. So I think that's just an important point. With confidence and with the ability to use software so specifically, you can often, I think, break through the kind of fear of an annuity or the misapplication of an annuity.
Do you think data tells the story in some respects? Is that part of what you're saying there?
Yes. And I mean, unfortunately, people have been sold on annuities, right. And we often will find out that we can actually, if they're out of surrender, of course, we can maybe, just abandon them, put more money into more of an asset-based, an AUM-based solution, a managed asset solution. It's just a matter of again, educating people and then using these tools the right way. And then there's no fear. There's actually an understanding that that's going to bring more reliable and in a more guaranteed fashion the income they need in retirement.
Mike, Russ, I'm curious if you might be able to give me an opinion on the client experience as you go through the analysis with clients. So I'm of the opinion that the client experience is goes through three phases as you walk them through this process. They go through an oh no phase when they see how underfunded traditional methods have left them. They go through an aha phase where they realize that there might be a solution, and then they go through an oh good phase when they see the optimized approach. Can you talk about the turnaround in emotions as you bring a potential client through the planning process, where they have this fear in their eyes when they see the underfunding, and then that incredible sense of relief when they see that there is a solution that'll work, and how much easier that makes it for you all to create a deep relationship and ultimately close business?
Yeah, I think that's a lot. There's a lot there. I'll try to answer that as best I can. I think a lot of times people just don't know what they don't know. Whether they found us through teaching a workshop, they have a little bit of a sense of what we're explaining to them, and they're already thinking about, how will this work for me? But when we bring them in and we do the initial analysis, a lot of times they don't even know what they're trying to accomplish. They see they see the example client on the board, and they're like, well, how much should I be spending per year? Right. So you really have to, we call it discover. We have a 5-step process, and step 1 being discover. But any financial planning process, that's what you're doing, right? You're establishing and identifying the goals and objectives. And so, many times the clients just don't know what they're really trying to do. And so we take the time to unpack all of that. And then they take a deep breath. Oh, I didn't think of that or that or that. So now I have an accurate number of what I actually need to spend or want to spend per year. And I think the other side of that too is people will usually think they can spend, like Andy said, 77% of people interviewed basically don't think they've saved enough. They're not on track.
Right.
And so when they come to us, they often think they can't spend what they actually want to. So that discover phase, we're helping people, we take all those barriers away and say, no, what do you how do you live, and how do you want to live the last, third of your life potentially, right? The next 30 years. And so we get that. And that's, the going from the, I don't think I have enough, right? We give them that information and unpack that. And then we take them through the process in the next visit, right? We compile the statements, we compile, the software, and we analyze everything and the different alternatives that there might be. And we bring them in. And I can recall a case off the top of my head where I showed a client and I asked the wife, I said, look, you had told us in the first meeting that you wanted to spend maybe another $10,000 more per year than what we just walked through. And I said, you can comfortably do that. And the husband's like, how? Right. And now we're walking through, but it's not just a whim like, oh, if the markets do this or they should average that. It's very specific. You need to claim your benefit at this age. This is when the income will be delivered and from which sources. This is how we're going to fund this annuity with a guaranteed lifetime income on it. And then here's how much of your wealth you just don't need to deliver that income. And you can spend it how you wish. You can grow it how you wish. You can save it for legacy. You can use it for, I always joke around with people, you can burn $100 bills in the fire pit if that's what you want to do. You just don't need it to deliver that income. And oftentimes we're resurrecting the thought of legacy, right? They know they'll be okay. They can treat their grandkids to things or even bless their own children. And then that's like the aha to them, like, wow, these guys really know what we're doing. We're looking at all of our assets and how we can use them in the best way to serve their needs specifically. And that's truly being a fiduciary, doing what's best for the client. We're taking into effect every product and tool out there, specifically unpacking it for what they're trying to accomplish. So that's the true aha.
Do you think that's the point at which your prospect is well on the way to becoming a client? That's the aha moment is when it pretty much what seals the deal?
Yeah, I would think so. You want to answer that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the mindset change, the paradigm shift is we've gotten them to now think, what's the cost of our retirement going to be? The lifestyle that we wish for, that you claim we can afford, what will it cost? And I know we've used this analogy a lot, but imagining just going to your favorite vacation destination and there's 3 homes on the beach. They're exactly the same, like exactly the same beach, exactly the same interior, exterior features and everything. And if I said to you, okay, let's start here. This one costs $1.2 million. We go through it and you like it. The second home, it's identical, so you really don't have to go through it. The next one costs $830,000. And then the one on the very end, same beach, same exact house, $583,000. Like, which one would we want, right? Nobody's going to be lining up to take the $1.2 million home. What you're doing then with these plans is saying we need to use the least amount of your capital to create the income streams to meet your lifestyle. That's it. That's it. It's as simple as that. Right. Any extra money right out of the gates into retirement is extra. It's excess. So to me, it's about what's the cost of the retirement, which is a very different mindset for most people. And then it's risk management. How can we do this in the least risk-oriented way so that you're not worried? You're not worried that a Dow Jones drop of 1,200 on a given day is changing that you can either go on the Alaskan cruise or not, or that you can gift money to your kids or not. It shouldn't be about that in retirement. It should be peace, low anxiety, low stress, and experiences.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, something. If I could add one more thing to that, the aha moment. So, through the course curriculum, you'll learn about things about Social Security that most people have no idea even exist. And just a quick example, and in our book, we give a lot of real life examples on, true clients to us, of course, not the real names. But I think the most profound thing we provide to people in some cases, and I'll give you this example. I had a woman come to see me. She was thinking about retiring. She's 67. She's already at full retirement age. She wanted to work until 70 and decided that's when she wanted to claim her benefit. But through the discovery phase, right, I've discovered that she was, through listening to her, she had raised her kids on her own. She was married, years past, and divorced. And after unpacking that situation, I had found out that she was married longer than 10 years and her ex-spouse had passed away. And so she was entitled to a full benefit on his record for those next 3 years before she switched to her own benefit and found her about $60,000 in income she had no idea was even there. The government will not send you a letter saying that they have this money for you. And what she was able to do was give all that money to her kids. She felt like that was the right thing. And she basically told me, and if she wasn't even a client yet, she's like, because everything you told me about that, she goes, I will definitely become a client. I will never go anywhere else. And she's like, you have my full trust. So it can be really profound. And that was just another cool aha moment I had that I thought about that this knowledge can really give your clients. So I had to share that.
It's a great story.
Lynn, we got you on
you?
mute, bud.
Sorry, guys. So we have a workshop coming up on March 18th and the 20th. And Mike and Russ, I just wanted to get your impression. So the first workshop is about the CSSCS certification. The second one is for the retirement asset optimization program. That certification would be for people that have not got the certification, but the RAO training, that could be good for people that are already enrolled in the program and want to brush up on the new system. The new system is actually not only going to make the calculations you guys are talking about, but will also point the agent to a specific annuity a recommendation for the client, or a number of recommendations for the client. How important is it for new DMI agents to come in and join that program, and for our current CSSCS graduates to continue with the RAO training? How is that going to impact their careers? What should they look forward to?
I think it again goes back to the idea of either being a generalist, someone who knows a lot but doesn't specify how something will work. Our favorite clients are the engineers, the accountants, the numbers-oriented people, because the numbers sell the plans. We don't have to be salesy. We can appeal to people because of the specificity of the plans. And so I think that's why it's important. You differentiate yourself as a specialist. And as you gain more and more experience and gain more stories like the great story Russ just shared, people start to see this is legit. This isn't just some marketing scheme. This is a legitimate way to adequately prepare people for retirement. And by doing that and staying engaged, again, this all goes back to activity. Creating more and more activity in a meaningful way is how you gain more clients and how you have more impactful experiences with clients, and you create better and better experiences. So to me, again, it's not difficult to me. It takes dedication and a commitment. And I think, as Andy says about Russ, I struck gold when I met Russ because he committed to this process. He committed to the things I was already doing. And honestly, to Russ's credit, we've taken this to like far, far better levels than I had in the first 6-7 years. And now we can reach more people. So getting the certification isn't just about the certificate. It's about the education that differentiates you. And then you have to then do something with it. You have to create activity, hold workshops, go to your existing clients and say, listen, I've got new education. This is something new and exciting to me, but I think it could really be useful to you. Let's take a new look at what we did 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think this could really mean something good for you. So, to me, lock into the process. That's what we've done. We lock into a process. It's like wash, rinse, and repeat.
And how I look at it. And Mike, you may not know, but at DMI, we also have DIY campaigns that you could run on your own to do your own webinars. Or if you come in-house, we've got marketing services that we can provide around workshops and webinars. They're highly effective. We have presentations around Social Security topics. So we can help with that from that perspective as far as finding new opportunities. So I really appreciate you speaking to that question. Russ, anything you want to say about that, about the opportunity of the education?
No, nothing else that Mike alluded to. I would just echo, you have to be bought in. It's funny. We always talk about when I first got into this business, what I did was I found the most successful person I could find. And I just sat down and I asked them, what do you do? And I didn't deviate from exactly what they told me because I knew it worked. And I think you have to apply that same idea if you want unlimited potential, because there is an unlimited amount of people you can serve in this way. And if you carry with you, like, that's your badge of honor, this is what I do, this is how I help people in such profound ways, it really just like emanates and radiates off you. And like, I have clients, they're like, oh, we just talked about you at this retirement party we were at. They were all asking who their advisors were. And we brought you up and told them about the process and told them about your book and this and that. And it just brings more to you. The more you're bought in. And to Mike's point, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. You can put your own flair and personality on it, but what are the specific things that work, and let them work, for you. So, and implement them. I think that's what I would say.
That's great. Seems like a much lower pressure situation if you can position yourself as a specialist in that way, right? Hey, so if you guys don't mind, if you want to show us your book, and do y'all want to say anything about Beyond Break Even?
Oh, I have notes from 7-8 years ago about this book that I would love to have written. And honestly, were it not for Russ and the energy he brought and the ability for me to then have a little more capacity to collaborate, it wouldn't be written right now. Beyond Break Even essentially is right to that point. The Social Security claiming decision should go far beyond a break-even analysis on one person's life. And if there's a lot of men out there, unfortunately, I think it's a lot of the men who take over the onus of sort of the financial planning and maybe the management of money in a household. Doesn't mean they're that good at it. Just means that they decided they're the ones, right?
Yeah.
And I kid you not, after this book was written, several days ago, a very, very experienced advisor came into the doorway of my office and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to be full retirement age this month. I think I'm just going to take Social Security. I did the math, and if I don't, I have to live to be about 82 or else I won't get the money." And I said, "Oh my gosh, this guy I've worked with, and for many, many years I've known him." And I could not believe it was almost to a T exactly why we wrote this book. The spouse, a much, much lower earning spouse, much younger spouse. And I mean, he was convinced, and I'm not going to just offer advice or opinion unless I sit with somebody, but that's why, because we often think of only ourselves and what the numbers are, and we often react in fear. The trust fund might go broke. I better take it while it's there. All this fear and the simple math often takes over. But that's why we wrote the book. A lot of the cases and stories are about married couples, people who've been through divorce, or unfortunately people who've been widowed. Those are the most meaningful examples that we can always think about because they're the most profound. Those are the ones where you're literally breaking down with those clients to the point of emotional tears because they are so happy that they're moving forward in a more probable, secure way. So that's what the book's about. It's about bringing up concepts that people often haven't thought about. As Russ said, it's sometimes the things you don't know, you just don't know them. You need someone to bring those to light. So that's why we did the book. That's why we're proud of the book. And, feel free to contact us if you want to offer any advice about it or any other thoughts about it.
You got it. Well, and Andy wrote the foreword for you guys, right? I assume. Well, why did you ask him to write the foreword?
Yeah, go ahead.
We asked him to write the foreword because we know that he is just as nerdy as we are about this topic, and that he's like our number one cheerleader. And we've always just had lots of good conversation, and it was kind of a no-brainer for us to ask him to do that. And thankfully he obliged. But really just, again, bought into it. Holistic planning, right? And we thought he'd be the best spokesperson to really kick off the book.